rescind, it can be amended. Miss, so if we could have an amended motion to that 11 executive session portion.
I'll amend the motion just made to move item number 11, approval of amendments to employment contract between the city of Brunswick and the city manager Regina McD. Item number, to executive.
There it is. Here in the first and the second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye. Aye. All those same, hearing none, the motion passes. Now we will the agenda amended. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Do I hear
Second.
here in the first and the second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye. Aye. Was opposed, the same, hearing none, the agenda is adopted. We will now move on to the public comment period. City Clerk Atkins. Thank you so much, Ms. Cook. Any questions? All right now. Thank you. Just want to make sure that's it for public comment. Okay. Ready? Okay. We will now have a point of privilege by Commissioner.
All right. I just wanted to thank the assistant manager, Regina, Brian, all of our city departments in preparation for Hurricane Idalia. Although it didn't come here, but we were prepared. So I just want to say that your work did not go unnoticed. Our fire department, police department, public works, everybody did a great job with preparing for that. So I did say thank you.
I think those minutes could be echoed by everyone around, especially for our, as she said, our public works who worked around the clock through the storm, our safety officials who also did the same, but also a few staff members who worked alongside the commissioners and the city manager and others from the community who helped stand up a shelter to ensure those who did not have housing, did not have shelter, have anywhere to be in the storm, that they had a place where they could be protected this weather. So thank you to our staff too, David Bravo, Vanessa Book, and others who really showed up and staffed our tour during that. So big thank you to all of the staff included. We'll now move on. We'll now move on to dates with the Community Development Block Grant. Director Bravo.
Good evening. Thank you, Commissioners, Mr. Sweet. As for every year, the City of Brunswick receives a specific allotment of funding from HUD. And today I'm going to explain to you what we did with the money for fiscal year 2022-2023, which run from July 1st, 2022 to 30th of 2023. Last we received $387,971. The the Office of City Manager with my department get together, and then we pretty much go over different aspects of the city and see where the money could go. Obviously, we're limited in areas as public services, which are nonprofits, demolition, repairing homes. Also, we have a section for fair housing, administration, which is salaries and supplies and all that. Basically, the breakdown was we have four main areas. The administration aspect of it, we decided to invest $45,000, which prior years we were investing $75,000. Remaining $30,000, we moved those to rehab with our MMH program, and I'll go into the details on that program in a. Then we have our fair housing education, which is $2,500, which what HUD allows to spend. We provided educational material, flyers. We went to different community events, Brunswick Authority, real estate agencies, MPAs, public events. We pass on all these flyers and things of that nature. We also created a one evening educational event, and we presented a fair housing based event for the MPAs. We invited all the MPAs. They were there. We provided the flyer, and we had an attorney from Georgia Legal Services to provide an insight of exactly is fair housing. You know, a lot of people talk about it, but nobody really knows what it is, the background of it, the history, what's behind that. So in a lengthy presentation, probably about an hour. So it was very, positive. They really enjoyed that, and it was a great experience. Then we move into the public services aspect of the grant, which provided funding for 5 nonprofits, and we they spend $60,000 in that area. Um, those nonprofits provide assistance to homeless people, children, families. It's a wide range of services that they grant us. Then you have your demolition, which we spent $1,000 on that. We demolished 9 properties across the city. 7 were court ordered and 2 were from private owners. Now, these structures are obviously a hazard to the community, or some of them, they had fires before or are dilapidated. A good example are structures that you saw in MLK. Those were actually a group effort between John's department, which is the Planning, Development and Codes Office of City Attorney, code enforcement officers, and the Brunswick Police Department, including my department. So when we work in these demos, it's not just going after the demo, but to make effort to go after these properties. A good example was the MLK. You know, it was a lot of planes that were seated on it. You didn't move fast enough, but there is a legal process behind properties that we have to go through the motion before we can bring bulldozers and put them down. But once we have the okay from legal, then we can just move in fast. It took only 2 days to take all 4 down. So that was a great accomplishment. And then also have the final, which is your MMH program, which we spent $200,471. We completed 9 homes. In those 9 homes, we replaced 9 roofs. We installed 2 new AA bathrooms. We installed 2 new regular bathrooms. We put 2 wheelchair ramps. We put 1 new deck. We updated 3 homes. New plumbing. We installed new flooring in 3 properties. Painted part 3 homes, and we installed brand new windows in 2 properties. So when you look at the numbers and you look at the amount of properties that fix with that minimum budget, it's really the same goes for demolition. We are basically extend the budget for demolition, and we're covering more and more ground now that we have the funding for that, and we with different departments to make sure that the stuff gets done. So basically, that's your summary for fiscal year 22-23. We use all the money. There's no money left. And now we're to the new fiscal year, or the new funding coming from HUD, which my opinion is it should be here this week or next week. So.
Great, Bravo, and thank you for your leadership and all of these efforts. Some really good numbers coming out of those dollars and putting those dollars to use. We thank you. I know the commission asked you guys to focus on demos, and you moved that money and got those dollars really focused on getting a lot of the blighted properties, especially along major thoroughfares, cleaned up, and still ongoing process. But we thank you for that, especially $230,000 spent, ADA bathrooms, roofs. That's ensuring legacy homeowners can stay in their homes.
Yes.
Sure, not only that they have a place to live, but sure that those properties can stay in their families for a long time. So thank you up front for all of the work they put in, and that the city manager's office and this commission is put get these things. Sure. Is there any way you could talk to me about 5 non-fits that the 60K went to?
Sure.
Then that's important is when we hear those numbers, 5 non-fits receiving 60K, what's important to me is that the wide array of the community publicly, how to engage in that process, how to make sure if you have a good idea that's on some of these areas that we're focused on, such as indigent care, homelessness, families, how do you get in front of that? How do you get in? And if you could just briefly walk the general public through that process, kind of those 5 ones kind
Sure.
of did.
Yeah, I can do that. HUD usually puts a percentage on the funding for public service. Typically go at 20% of the funding has to be spent on public services. And when they mean by public services, they mean it has to be used for nonprofits within the community, and those have to help low-income section of the community. I'll give you a couple of examples here. Coastal Outreach Academies, for example, they have $16,000. Their programs, they help 160 students. That's what they did with the money. Obviously, 16,000 is not going to help 160, but grants from other places. And when you put all that money together, they can actually run a program for 160 kids. And what they do is basically they go in different schools in Brunswick, and they engage these children that have many problems. They engage those children through soccer. And when they do that, their grades go up, their attitude to life changes. I've seen that with my own eyes when I do visit them, and it's a program that works. So every year they come to us and they ask for the money, and we go through the motions, and the board, because we have a board, the city board, approves a specific amount of money. So that's basically what the program, the city program is designed to do, and that's what the program is doing actually.
No, I perfect example. Commissioner Roll has direct contact with them. I think
Mhm.
that's her brother, who Sean, who is the head of that program, and many children have been through it, gone to college,
Yep.
soccer, but also gotten their education and come back to work right here in the community. So the type of things we want to invest in really quickly.
Sure.
Can you tell people they can apply? What are those application dates? Where do they need to email to? And what that process is.
Yes, every year we open the window around February and March. There's 30 days in which you can submit the application of the RFP. Those are specifically for public services and public facilities. You submit the RFP, and after we close the window, which is after days, give us about 2 weeks, and we meet with the CDBG board, which is a year. We present the information as neutral as we can. We don't basically advocate for any of those. It's up to the board who they're gonna pick and they're gonna spend the money. Typically what we do, we go through the city website, we put a banner explaining that the CDBG, it's open now to apply. We have a database of emails of about 170, 180 stakeholders. We notify those, and we also notify the MPS of the application process. Obviously, it's for nonprofit, not for private citizens, but you never know. You know, they might have a new nonprofit that might be interested. So, but that's basically how we communicate. We do a big splash in social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. So we use different channels to inform the community that we're opening the basis for.
I appreciate that. Any question?
I have a couple of questions. I'm a little confused. Working like the house rehab, where you say we currently have 20 homes in queue. Does that mean those 21 homes were actually done during that year, or they're queued up for the coming year?
This is the 21 is what we have right now. What happens, the MMH program is it continue to roll over every year. It doesn't stop. We do 365 days of that program. So at one point we close it, we run out of money. But that doesn't mean we stop. It means we're still working, and while we're getting money, the new money from HOT, we're still working. Like right now, we're doing 4. So, but the queue, the list, it never ends, because you take them out, people keeps coming in, and we keep recycling that list. Hopefully, you know, luckily we have now 2 contractors, and now we basically flips 4 in batches of 4. So that means in 3 months we can do about 10 of them, which it makes the list to move a little faster than before. But what's basically what it is right now in our queue. The ones we achieved was basically 9 last
9.
year.
Okay.
We increased the amount of addition actually.
And I know you spoke to some of the dollars, but if you have it included in your report, that'd be helpful to look at what those dollar figures actually were. But
Okay.
thank you.
Sure,
How hard y'all work. Do an amazing job.
sure. Thank
I've
you.
enjoyed being part of the process a couple.
Thank you.
Homes that aren't court ordered, the other two
Mhm.
requirements for, um,
They have to apply for the grant, basically. If you have own a property in the city and you need issues with code enforcement, your house burned, what you have to do is you come to the city hall, and we'll sit down with you and go over the details to see what you're planning to do with the property. We look at the, much it's gonna cost to clean the lot, and then we'll plan. Because you might take a property out because it's falling apart, but then you're gonna leave an empty lot. So that opens the door for people to come in and actually dump their trash. So you're solving one problem, but then you're creating another one. So what do we actually tell the owners and said, okay, what is the plan? Are you planning to sell the property? Are you planning to build? And so that's why you can see the amount of private owners is very low. Also, part of that is we put a lien on the property. So if you sell the property, you pay it back. If you don't, you can just go about your business. So
I would say kind of tell them all of the preparations that do as far as being a liaison to help them complete the application for the process, to actually move the process, send emails to all of the nonprofit organization and to the community.
correct.
But you also have an in process. You all are assisting them through the actual process. So just kind of make sure you understand that,
Sure, yeah.
that they're not gonna be out there if they qualify, presenting the qualifications that everyone knows. You can already determine if you qualify or not. I'll provide that information. So just making sure that people know where to get that specific information as to if you qualify, all of those.
Yes, the city website actually has both applications, the MMH and we also put in there the demo permit. So
When we use jargon within the government, oh, I'm a government person as well, so I know you use jargon, but the general public doesn't know what MMA is.
Okay.
Major, minor. So just
correct.
kind of make sure
Okay.
you're talking in that terminology where the general.
yes, so the minor major home repair program, which is on the program we run, the application, you can find that city website. The same with the demolition, it's also there. It gives you all the details, phone numbers, my name, Dina's name. And basically we'll walk you the process. We don't just hand it to you and say, hey, come back when you're ready. We'll sit with you and go over every page and details that the application requires. And we basically put you in this system or Excel that in which we follow with you. We make the phone calls. Hey, did you get the drivers? Did you get the deed of the house? Did you get? So we do a follow-up with them to make sure that follow up the crowd that, they're still in the system. The minor home repair, it's a little more complicated because it demands more document. We always ask them to bring the originals. We make the photocopies for them, and we basically walk them through the entire process from beginning to end. The demolition program is the same way. They bring originals, we make copies for, and we walk them through the entire process. I personally go check on properties once or twice a week to make sure the contractors are doing what they're supposed to be doing. When it's demolition time, I'm there making sure that the demolition is done and is fairly handled. I coordinate with the code enforcement officers, coordinate with the police department. So it is a group effort. I can
just
tell
wanna-
you.
I just put that out because we as commissioners do get calls, I've not heard that they didn't do this, but that is being done.
Oh, yes.
That we should processing and intake is. I just want.
Yes, I have a great person, Dina Carter. She does a phenomenal job with the MMH. I'm sorry, with the minor major home repair program. She took it upon herself to make sure that it's run properly, and she's doing a neck job when it comes out. So
Perfect. Any additional questions, comments? Seeing none, thank you a lot. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Next up, we'll have public hearing, proposed zoning ordinance 1081, zoning ordinance visions, Mr. Hunter.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I'll be really, I'm here tonight to open a public hearing on our zoning ordinance revisions. Before we get into that, just to update you, questions you had at the first public hearing and first reading at your last meeting. I believe I sent out a response to everybody on my research on the expiration of non-conforming uses. At that statewide, we had some options available to us. Did incorporate new language into this draft that reduces the abandonment of a non-conformity from 365 days to 180 days. So that will allow up to, when we have properties that have uses that not meet the requirements, if it has been abandoned or deemed abandoned after 180 days of non-use, anything that goes into that property will have to meet the new zoning requirements to be conforming moving forward. And I think that'll have a very positive of it for us as we continue to redevelop throughout the city. Does anybody have any questions about that before I move on? And typically what we would look at is look at our business records and our certificate of occupancy and see at what periods we have renewal, particularly on our business licenses. But then we would likely also reach out utility companies to see when billing activity was ended at those properties. If they've been truly shut off or if there was a lapse in service during that period. Something that does come up very regularly. We don't have too many properties that are non-conforming a use standpoint. But I think it'll be key for those that are non-conforming as we move forward. Yeah, so we would look at that too and see whether taxes have been paid. But kind of combine all of those factors would help us determine whether or not it's really abandoned. From a policy standpoint, outside of the ordinance, I think it would be practices for us if we were to declare use abandoned, that we would notify the owner of record through certified mail and declare it and give them an opportunity to state their case before we altered a record permanently. Yeah. Yeah. And that was administratively. And if they disagree with our administrative decision, look, I think administratively it would go from me to the city manager and then the city manager to this body. Like to think we wouldn't get to that level, but occasionally we do. But yeah, that's something to build a little bit more information outside of our ordinances about. Yeah. Yep. Yes, I agree. Um, it's, I appreciate that. That was good feedback, and we'll definitely outline policies and have that in place. Just so you know, from a public commenting standpoint, I had a grand total of 2 phone calls, both of which were about the Much district. And, they were people who were hoping they were going to be in it. So, so they were hoping their property was going to be in it, and basically they were just checking that. So that's positive. As I stated, we did have the first reading at the August 6th meeting. The purpose now is to have the public hearing, to give any opportunity, last opportunity for public feedback. After that closed later in this meeting, we'll be asking you to approve the zoning ordinance revisions.
If we have questions, can we ask them then, or would you rather have them right now?
Questions? Yeah, I think let's go ahead and have those now.
We had discussions in the past about billboards and trying to limit, if not totally eliminate billboards within the city limits. I mean, it's,
So it's that, they are not eliminated. We did, if you all, last year before.
Probably
2021,
2 years
um,
ago, yeah.
as we were updating the signs, portion at that time, we did have we had some issues with the language, that we had to correct. The areas in which new billboards would be placed are extremely limited. We reduced the zones in which they be placed.
Did we change distance requirements?
We did not change distance
Okay.
requirements. Partly as we surveyed where we have things located now, there are very few opportunities in the city to add any signage, especially when you consider the area that we have them eliminated and the areas, the distances from residential uses, you can have buildings. And I think in the 8 years that I've been with the city, we've only had 4 billboard applications. 2 of those led into the lawsuits and the issues. One denied, but then was allowed through variances, and 1 was in a nation that was allowed by right. So I don't think it's something that we will see any push forward with any additional boards moving forward.
We didn't think we were gonna get those 2 we got.
Did not.
Yeah. They kind of came out of left field.
Shocker, wasn't it?
It was.
And so, yeah, I believe we've tightened the language up enough. And if they're removed, then in many of those locations where they are now, you wouldn't be able to put them back just under the existing ordinances. Some of the ones on 17, the handful that we have on Gloucester, those would never
Yeah.
come back.
And then the other one is really more of a suggestion, starting with, I think, chart number 3, where the grids set up where you can easily see, I think it's on seven in our packet. Starts with chart 3. Is really just to repeat the description for the zoning abbreviations, because you've got these abbreviations, but if you can't remember what you got to go all the way back.
Gotcha.
So if you could just,
Yeah, I think we got pretty good, that we
Yeah.
got that pretty
and
easy.
then to me, that's.
So we know that NC's neighborhood commercial and that HC's highway commercial. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
very, very easy change I could make before I the final copy
Yeah.
on for signature.
But-
That's a good suggestion.
Mhm.
Additional questions or comments?
John, I'd just like to ask you right now, how are we doing with Airbnb regulations, things that we put in place? Having any problems?
Um, we have a couple of problems. We actually, with the Airbnbs themselves, no. We've had an issue with, a couple of people take exception to having an Airbnb next door. We can talk about that if you'd like, but, no, it's something that's really becoming commonplace. You know, we've got some sensible regulations and, I really don't anticipate it being problematic.
And most of the folks that are doing Airbnb now, we feel like we've got them licensed. They know what the,
Would say at this time, no, but it's something, I hope to be coming back with, a proposal for assisting us with that through, contractual services,
working.
similar to what the county does.
So does Russ still have job security?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I've still got plenty of stuff to do.
He's gotta wake up over there.
Any additional questions or comments? I want to back up what Commissioner said. If we do go with a more truncated time, the notice has to be
Yeah.
above and beyond. And so if we could get just a short little white paper on what the step notice directly are, so when we go out in the community, we can let people know that.
And we do through our code enforcement and our building department, we do a lot of notification already. And, you know, our basic step really is, for most of our processes, it's a written notification as kind of a warning with an opportunity to come in and talk about an issue. Then you, I'd say more sternly worded, this is mandatory. And then we start moving into citation situations.
Mhm.
This wouldn't be a citation situation, but it's that same notification opportunity so that we've got that record. And it's really easy for us now with the permit and code enforcement software that we use is all of our property record is integrated. So it's very easy for us to keep that information on file if we felt like we needed to, even after we declared that 6 months and we felt like, well, we got no response, but at a year's point, re-notify them. It's very easy for us to track that information and set it up so that we can send out those notices when we need to.
Good deal. Anything else?
Yes, ma'am. Understood.
Thank you, Director.
We will need to
Open it up for
public
public
hearing in
hearing.
case we have anybody who'd like to speak.
Yes, sir. We are now open for public hearing. I would ask the one who has any comments, please come to the mic. Speak for or against. You know, I always like to ask, is there a good amount of time to keep it open? This, all right, this, anybody online? Okay. Okay, no one's online. Miss Anita? Is there a good amount of time to keep comment open? There isn't an exact time to keep it open, so we don't have anyone to the front. Or this is open for public hearing on the zoning ordinance, so anyone wants to speak for or against? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Try to speak up. Put those mics close to you. All right. Hearing that, public hearing portion is closed. Director Hunter. We'll now move on to alcohol license violation.
Evening. I am here tonight to present ordinance violation for one of my businesses, Jerk Shack. I do have Mr. George Morris here today. We had an incident on July 23rd to where we were still open and operating after hours. So it is up to the commission for any type of probation, or it's totally up to you guys. There's nothing standing in the ordinance. So if you want to speak with him, he's here for questions, or if you have questions for me.
Two quick questions before we get into it. One, can you walk us through your knowledge situation
Of what happened?
of
I
what
can.
happened? And then the second piece will be for City Attorney Court to preemptively tell us what options are at hand. I don't want us hawking this and coming up with it. So if we can get you first, Officer Brown, Brian, if
Like
you're ready.
the date on the order.
However comfortable you
Okay.
feel. Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
because I want to sort of piggyback as part of your answer too, is why distance of time between the incident and court? Or maybe I'm just not looking at it correctly.
As far as the dates,
Yeah,
I don't know that. I don't know that part. But as far as the incident, it's from Captain Wilson, patrol captain. And on the above date and time, which was July 23rd at 2:20 a.m., he responded to the parking lot of this location, which is, I'm so sorry, forgot his address, that's that. 4420 Altama, which is the Jerk Shack. And in his response, he arrived around a.m. and began driving around the parking. After several minutes, he saw the crowd begin to leave the area. However, he did some observation of several cars in the parking lot. Music still playing. The sign in the window advised that they were still open. The business was still open. And he continued to watch the area until about 2:10 a.m., where he drove to the front door of the business, made contact with security and 3 or 4 other patrons. He arrested the manager, which is Mr. George Morris, and they asked him what was the problem. After then, he immediately could see several customers, at least 15 to 20, still inside dancing. He observed bartenders still serving alcoholic beverages to persons going to the bar. Also, customers were still consuming alcoholic beverages, including beer and other drinks. He advised the staff at that point that they needed to shut down immediately, and that they should have been closed, I think, 20 minutes ago, which was around 2:20 when he was referring to that they needed to be closed. And after he left the parking lot about 2:30, he was advised by another officer, Lieutenant Merritt, that the owner had approached him prior to leaving and advised that he didn't know what went on up front. He was in back preparing food. Any questions?
There is a follow-up here by Sparks.
Yes.
I'm just not sure the road.
Mhm. Yes, she does have a follow-up that following week. Let me get my pages up. What? That the owner of Jerk Shack did call, I believe that was the following week. Well, that was before, wait, yeah, a week after I got the report, let's just say that. Last night, which was August 13th, she sent this email to me, so I'm gonna say August. She got a call from Mr. Morris at Jerk Shack to clear his parking lot of people not wanting to leave. He showed he was being responsible and a responsible owner and was in the parking lot cleaning up with some of the employees who were still there that night.
So why the gap from July the 23rd to August the 13th or 15th?
So the August 13th was a different incident. It wasn't the same as the one on July 23rd. And as far
But
as,
why is this just coming to us if the?
well, I had to do the process. I shouldn't just put them on the agenda, so I had to do the process. Getting it signed by the city manager and then giving it to the city clerk. And I believe you had to do advertising. Did you have to? Okay. First one.
I just have a who is Miss Sparks?
She is a sergeant at the. police
Oh,
department.
okay. So she's in the police.
She is.
Okay. Thank you.
Separate incidents, yes. After the July 23rd incident, he took it upon himself to be proactive. And that's when he called an officer, and that was the weekend that Officer Sparks, or Sergeant Sparks was there. Mm-hmm. Yes, Captain Wilson, once he got there and had to get out he asked for a manager, which was Mr. Morris. He waited at the door. After I saw the body cam, I don't have my copy. I put, if you guys wanted it, it would have to be requested. So I didn't hear anything and bring one. I do believe he has his, just in case that you want to watch. But he stood at the door the entire time. And Mr. Morris came out from the back. I could see him coming from the back. So by him telling Mr. Merritt, Lieutenant Merritt, that he had no idea what was going on, I did see him coming from the back on the body cam from Captain Wilson at the time. So. Mhm. Right.
How can he not hear music being played, people dancing, and patrons still being served?
I would have to ask
Yeah.
him that one.
And then is it normal that an establishment such as this, you get towards the close of business or during the evening, that you have security, some type of security, so that patrons aren't leaving, they can be shuffled along, as opposed to having to call the police department to come do that?
Well, now I think he has a plan in place for that. With the police department, he has done that since the incident. So now he has it, I'm sure their entire agreement, so I would have to, ask him. But, they do come out when he calls, or sure, Mr. Morris, do they come out just to be there, or do you have, so,
Can you come up?
thank you. Okay.
They're always there.
And I think you started that about a week or so ago.
I have it all the time. I have Deputy Willie.
Oh,
I
okay.
got all the information. All the contact. I've never not used evidence. Well, Deputy Williams sent me a text and said, can't do it right at the minute, so I have to go to the city to find help there. Yeah, that Williams was the one who do the security. Each go.
We need you to speak right on the mic.
Yeah, Deputy Williams is the one that did security. I have all my information, all my texts, everything that I get him to come work. Well, he couldn't make it, so he told me to go get Carlos, and Carlos wasn't there, so I had to go to the city, and then the city appoint somebody every weekend. Yeah. Yeah. I have my own. I have my own. I have a security inside and I have Deputy Williams on the outside. And he was supposed to cover it when he can't work to cover it. And I have all my texts and make sure he's communicating with me at times.
Can we make sure we have an address on these works? There's no address that I could see on anything related to this incident.
Is Deputy Williams, does he work for the county?
He's this marshal.
Okay, and I'm just wondering, just.
I have used Deputy Marshal from my previous place, and
He's
he
the tall guy, right?
yes,
Yeah,
and he
okay.
always want. He said right here can show you the text where he said, "Don't give my job to anyone because I'm working for you." It's right here in my phone, so I always have him. And since he's not up there for the last few weeks, he told me to go to the city. He sent me to the city via. They go there and talk to them, and they'll get you right.
Brian, before I jump into questions, I just want to know what the parameters are here.
So-
Before, can we go ahead and have some clarity on why you were not able to hear that there was still music playing, people dancing, and alcohol being served to patrons?
Yes,
when it
ma'am.
should have
I
been
watched the video.
quiet?
I'm in the back preparing food for the customers because I stay open all day till everyone leaves. So I'm getting food prepared in the back. Well, I didn't hear the music because I'm in the back cooking. But anyway, when I'm out, my daughter called me and said, "There's an officer outside." So when I went outside, the officer standing at the door. I said to him, I said, "I didn't realize the time that you said. It was 2 something." So anyway, I said, "They're leaving right now," but there was no alcohol served. There was no thing might be served was food. There was no one. I had the video. I request the video from the officers, and I played back several times. There was no alcohol, and I was the only one preparing food to go.
Well, I need clarity on what the hours are supposed to be and when they should close down.
Sure.
Whether it's food, alcohol, or anything.
For alcohol and what I would limit this to would be alcohol because it's 1:45 final call, 1:45 a.m. and then all patrons out of the facility at 2. So it should have been last call 1:45, no additional alcoholic drinks served, and then went out the front door at 2:00.
Questions?
If I was playing it through the leagues, I'd rely on, so the narrative that you see from the police officers provided saw the service of alcohol after 1:45. So it's not just looking at what time it was, which it looks like it was about 2:20, which is just outside, of course, but beginning at 1:45, there should not have been any alcohol served. And then at 2:00, everyone had been out of the business. So I would look at it as, a single violation, but it is a violation of both hours of operation and hours served. That makes sense. And then for the time gap, Commissioner Martin, you asked, I think this occurred on the 22nd of July, correct? Or 23rd, I'm sorry. I was out the next week, but as soon as I got back, I brought this up to me and we talked about how the process would follow through to bring it to the city commission. So it'd take a couple weeks and then we got it on the city commission for this. And then with regards to what ramifications you're taking into consideration tonight. So the code provides for, the commission to be able to suspend, revoke, refuse to renew or impose condition probation on a license that's found to be in violation of our code of ordinances, state law. There is a state law related to the hours of operations, but we also have one within our code. So I would just consider this a code of ordinances violation. The types, if you were looking at conditions of probation, limitation on days or hours of operation, limitation on number of persons allowed in the licenses, limitations on manner of service, meaning whether or not you can use glass container, those types of things, limiting whether or not you can offer shots or drinks, happy hour specials. That's what that entails. Requirements, additional security or personnel, requirements, lighting, parking, or ingress or egress, a means of ingress and egress, requirements of employee training, or the obtaining of and that's more so of a underage sale, but the attaining of a center for IDs, noise reduction requirements, litter requirements, crowd control requirements, those types of conditions can be imposed if you were to placing it, the license on probation. Excuse me.
And this is true whether it's a private party event or it's regular patrons, correct? I mean, 1:30, no more pouring, 1:05, and then shut your doors, everybody out by 2, should hold whether or not it's a
If
private
it's a
party
licensed
event.
establishment, yes.
No questions.
Mr. Morris, do you normally talk to your employees, like to just make sure, like when you came to us first with the
Yeah.
licenses, say how important it was for them to do what they're supposed to be doing, that you wouldn't be before us again?
Actually, I personally, on their time working, I train all my staff member, and I know fact there was no alcohol serving. We giving the customer like a water in a cup or something going. I watch the tape, I watch a video, I requested myself. I was fixing food to them to go. The only reason why these people were still in that place that night, my employee that worked for me for the last 10 years, I was trying to explain it to the officer. He died. His family members came into town. That's why you find a little bit extra, because I have at least 15 people that's on roll. 4 is for security, 4 is for bartender, and 2 cleanup. So right there by itself, it's like, and plus myself and the 4 bartender. So that by itself gonna give you 15 people in the building at any given time at 1:45 o'clock. Yes, the music was playing, but there was no serving of alcohol. And I was giving these people, the family members, food for them to go. That's why I was coming from the back. I'm making up the plate because they come from out of town, because we call it going away party for the guy who died. I'm showing him some love and respect, having his family mixing up their meal to go. That's the only reason why I was not in the front. So when they called, my daughter came and called me. I was coming from the back to come up there. And as soon as anyone want to see the video, they could watch it. I said to them, "You all get out of here," and we shut down thing, and everyone leave. And that was about right a little bit after 2. I was fixing food. Really might missed a little bit of layaway, but there's no liquor serving between 1 and 5. I personally closed on last call every single time at 1:45. I personally do it myself. Everyone know, everyone trained. And in the video, see the security walking in to make sure they get everyone out of there. You can see the security in his uniform. So there is never any given time. I never have this issue before. I personally go in the parking lot every night, clean up the parking lot, and after my security leave and I'm cleaning, if I need help, I have to call the city to get these people out of the park. They're doing donuts, they're doing stuff. I'm trying to get them out of there. People come in the parking lot, even patronizing the business. So that's when I call to get them out of there. But as for the people who was inside, they were mostly family members and employees. And I have the paper to show that this gentleman worked for me for 15 years, and he died, and his family member was there. So we having a going away party for this family member. So at that point, it was more like private. It's only the family members and of course.
Any additional questions or comments? While during the gap, they got a violation, and from the moment they got the violation until now, they are able to serve alcohol until we render some sort of because it's just me. I do have some questions.
Yeah.
I'm not in I would not want this commission to be in the business of strongly hampering or hurting a business that's trying to do business, trying to do the best he can. However, we have to do what we need to do to protect our community, protect our citizens. And so because there is such a myriad of options, I feel like we may need some additional time to really think about what the exact remedy should be instead of kind of hodgepodging some things together here tonight. If there's a way to take a vote to have a suspension until we make a final decision, I'm not sure if that is available to us. Brian, is that available?
If vote tonight to place the license on probation, he technically can ask for a hearing, and one can be set where he can present evidence. I mean, but this is essentially what would be the same discussion then.
Mhm.
So,
And I'm not asking, I don't want more evidence. I can go off what I've heard. I'm more trying to figure out so we can put together actual plan of what it should be instead of just, seeing through kind of what we're throwing out here. I'd rather have a put together to present. And so I'm trying to say if this decision would make the decision that we don't want them serving alcohol until we render the full decision, is that possible?
it would, I mean, it's a suspension of the license until, I mean, I think you would be voting tonight to suspend, which is in the purview and the discretion of the city commission until
The
there
next
is,
city commission meeting.
yep, and there's
Okay.
direction given. Yep.
Go ahead.
Well, I think maybe it might be helpful too for us if you could help us find the difference between probation and what would be appropriate for putting a probationary period versus a suspension and what that period might look like, and perhaps some additional training. I mean, you got to close your business. I don't care what's going on. You got to close your business when you're supposed to close your business.
I just want to clarify, whatever decision I was talking about wouldn't be the final decision. It would be the decision that we would make tonight so we could, as a commission, look at the options we have and render a final decision. That would include training, whatever, because I think the suite of options that we have are so large that it would kind of be, I think short-sighted of us to just kind of render a decision.
The code provides an entire gamut. I mean, from nothing to revoking entirely. I mean, that is how sort of wide your options are in these particular circumstances. So, we can certainly put together options or suggestions, or in a memo just lay out exactly what is available to the city commission, and even discuss some of the past probationary decisions that's been made by the commission. So
So if you're saying that the ordinance is different, you're not trying to amplify. So if suspension that is probation, I'm just recalling prior incident. But we have other rest probation and could be stipulation based. Suspension would be the hand. I'm recovering off.
And I want to add to that because, at least for me, I have that background in my packet. So if somebody decided to send me tonight, I would be going off their hearsay. I haven't seen anything in my packet that I can read through. Because of that, we wouldn't be able to make an equitable decision. So I would believe the only decision would be to give us more time to skin the historical references that we have to build an equitable decision off of the options that we have. I think the question I would ask us tonight is, would from this point until we render that decision, is it a probationary period, a suspension, or do we just leave it as and he serves until we make a final decision?
Yeah, I think I would suggest probably placing it on probation for the time being, without the additional stipulations on it, just so that it preserves his life in place while you guys take into consideration all of the conditions in the ordinance, but also ensures, because obviously if there's a secondary violation during probation, that does result in a suspension vacation. That is the next step there. This is not that case, but it would sort of preserve and protect both parties, essentially preserving his license, protecting the city. If it were to happen again, it's an automatic decision. So that would be probably my recommendation. And then I can place before all the commissioners, what has happened in the past, the code sections and the conditions in place.
Yeah, because I think in the past, historically, we have on initial first cases done some type of probationary
Right.
with additional training and really using the suspension of license as a second, third, really egregious kind of a situation.
I think off the top of my head, I know that you've used probation and training and additional scanner for underage sales. I know we have in severe cases, firearms being discharged or repeated offenses looked at suspension and revocation.
I don't ever remember. I don't remember at all. I want to say something to George Morris too. I got to know him when he opened up down here on Newcastle Street, called me needing some help, and I've never met with a finer man. I'm gonna tell you. And I wish he was still down here on the street, but he went to another location, but he stayed in the city.
Well, back in the city.
And I can't see where we're serving any good purposes. If this happened regularly, if we were making cases out here, and I've been here a good while, am I right that this has not been before us before?
You mean in terms of operating outside the posted hours?
Right.
I don't recall
I do not.
one.
I mean, I really don't. I haven't seen your members. I don't remember a case. I think my thought here is that I'm glad that George is here tonight. I'm glad that we're doing what we're doing. I agree with him stuff here, I really do. But I think we need not go to the extreme. Really do. I think that we need to be sure we're saying up here we can enforce what we're doing. I'm all for moderation, whatever moderation purpose for us. That's what due process. It'll happen. It's just cool.
Okay. Mr. Morris, when you came before us the first time,
Yeah.
I asked some pretty honest questions too.
Yeah.
I was honest with you about the parking lot that
Yes.
my mother had down the street from your establishment that was in the county.
Yeah.
That you would continue to have county police have to be called to that establishment from people, whether they are going to your establishment and coming out and hanging in the parking lot, or whether they're coming to meet people who come out of your establishment. Your establishment produces that kind of atmosphere and ecosystem. And I'm not trying to say it's necessarily good or bad. I'm trying to say when your business creates the ecosystem, it's incumbent upon you to ensure people leave the parking lot. It's incumbent upon you to make sure people don't drink after times they're not supposed to be drinking, especially, which is what when you first came before us, especially because the place that you are is surrounded by residential communities and schools. It's Magnolia Park, where I grew up, right across the street. The rest of it is the college. There's an apartment community, big lots, and it's residential. So I said the first time you would have to be deeply in control of your parking lot and establishment. And at that point in time, you told me you were going to be a family restaurant. You were going to close at midnight.
Yes, I did.
That's what you told me.
Yes, I did.
That I'm assuming has since changed. So I need to hold you to that.
Yeah.
You can go to a different business model.
Yeah.
You don't have to hold to telling you're going to close at midnight. But let's not act like when we talked the first time, that's not what we heard. And so now that we are here in this position, and again, I am in no way for hampering business. In fact, I'm for you continuing open, continuing to serve, all of those things. But to not act like it is a serious infraction, because it is a serious infraction. And whether you believe the police officer didn't see alcohol being served, I don't want to go against what our officer has put into a report and what they've said. So it can't be he say, she say. I got to go off the report. So regardless of what is rendered here tonight, I would hope that you take heed to not only ensuring that you protect your business and you protect your patrons, but you do what you need to do to protect the communities around your business as well. And if that means additional security, there were 4 security. I think going back, you got 4 security, right?
Yeah, inside the building. and
Okay,
one
if you
outside.
get 4 security inside the building.
Yeah.
Then your open light should be off.
Yeah.
Mute should be down. I'm not against the staff hanging around and doing what they do.
Yeah.
But if you got 4 security people, you telling me inside of that building, somebody should be focused on that. So I need you to at least start focusing on protecting all of those things, which keep the city safe and keep our police officers protecting citizens throughout the city and not being bouncers for our bars and clubs, okay? With that, I will open it up for a motion, whatever it is.
Silence on the Diaz. So I will make a motion. And I make a motion based upon the gamut of the ordinance that is in place and has been read, taking into consideration all of the comments. I would recommend probation with not sure what other stipulations we want to put. I'm not sure if anybody else.
Do we have to declare how many months? Or it follow the kind
I
of
guess it would
formula?
depend on whether or not you wanted to be presented with, the additional past information of what's going on. If you did, I would get that to you for the next commission meeting. So I would say that at least have probation until the next commission meeting, and then you could make a finalized decision then.
So that motion would allow the concerns that the mayor has expressed as well to be addressed.
I believe so, yes.
Okay, so I make that motion.
All right, probation until the next commission meeting.
Yes.
We have a first and a second, but we have a commissioner roll with a question.
So during the probation period, just so we all can understand, can he still remain
Yes.
selling? So what cannot happen while he's in
Just not a
probation?
second infraction.
Any second action.
So
So you can
No
still,
staying open late.
That's correct.
What about if the police is called?
I mean,
That's just so we can,
Yes,
Like
all
all
of
of
the items are listed in the code of ordinances, like the all chapter, including all state regulations. So no under sales, no staying open past hours, no sales past hours, noise, the nuisance, any of those calls that could come in would jeopardize the license.
Occupancy.
Yes, yeah, occupancy, if there's too many people in there. We do have code, that regulates the use of firearms if there is an incident in the parking lot vicinity that is a result of the establishment. So all of those things come into play.
we have a first and a second for probationary period until the next meeting when everyone has the historical probation and all of the final stipulations on a probation can be added. We have a first and a second. All those in favor show by the sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you. We'll now move on to number 5, consider approval of August 16, 23 public hearings and regularly scheduled meeting minutes. Do a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the August 16th, 2023 public hearing, regular scheduled meeting minutes, and August 23rd, 2000 special call meeting minutes.
Hearing a first and second, all those in favor show usual sign of aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. We will now move to consider approval of July 31st financial reports, Director Mills. And we're getting you for the people on TV. We know we can hear you.
I know y'all can hear me. Okay, you have before you the July financial statements. Obviously, July is the first month of our fiscal year, so not a lot of comparisons here. We're at 8% of the year at this point. So monthly numbers and year to date are the same for the month of July. We have expenditures over revenues of $126,000, which, as I tell you every time, is not usual for this time of the year. We will start seeing property taxes rolling in a couple of months. So most of our income is coming in right now is just from local option sales tax and also some fees, but it's not the heavy time of the year for those. We have cash on hand in general fund of approximately $9.5 million. The majority of those funds are invested at Georgia Fund 1, which in July was earning 5.21% after any fee, which actually equates across all of the funds that we have money invested in Georgia Fund 1 with. We earn about $90,000 a month on interest income for our funds that are on deposit. For July, local option sales tax was up 3.5% from the same time last year. That equates to approximately $30,000. We received $875,626 in local sales tax for the month of July. And our SPLOST 22 account at the July 31st, we had 2 months of income that had come in on SPLOST 22, which was approximately $1,327,000. And we'll go into greater detail on that as we start spending that money. And I'll do you a chart like we have on the second page, which is still our SPLOST 6. We have cash on hand. If you'll look at the middle of the page in the block, we have approximately $1.9 million in cash for SPLOST. Those funds are being spent down as we go along. Spent a total so far of almost $14.5 million in SPLOST 6 projects. And as I said, we still have approximately 1.8 million, which is those projects are in process. Sorry, on my overage and collect down there, you'll see my AGL and Pride utility somehow got changed to $1. I don't usually have to go in and change that number in any case because it's always the same. I must have hit something. That number should be $70,000. And that total remaining to be allocated would be $642,315. On the next page, we have Norwich Street Commons, no activity in that fund. The cash balance as of July 31st is approximately $351,000. Those funds are invested, earning a little over $1,500 a month in interest. The Roosevelt Multipurpose Center Fund, we had total inflows of 16,000, outflows of 21,000 for a net of a negative $5,000. There is a cash balance as of July 31st of approximately $7,000. During the month of July, we transferred in $15,000 from the general fund to offset expenditures in Roosevelt Harris. We did not receive any money during the month of July, so once that money comes in, we'll be out of the negative there. It's just we're usually a couple of months behind on getting that money. The ARPA fund, you'll see very top, we've had total funds received $9.5 million. Have spent approximately $3 million, leaving us cash balance $731 of $6.5 million. You can see we have spent the $3 million on under at the bottom under allocations spent, which is in italics to show you which parts we have already spent money, that $3 million on. Next page is the sanitation fund. Total revenues a month, $147,000. Total expenses, $141,000. We do have, I'm sorry, total. Okay, let me double check that. I'll check with her. But anyway, we have a total of $391,000 in cash. I don't see my expenses for the trash picked up. So let me go back. It probably got, since it was 4th of July, it may have been charged back to last year, and I may need to move that, but I'll double on that. Because we did have expenditures of $126,000 to Republic, and then money for illegal refuse and sweeping, which was approximately $19,000 for a total of $145,000 in sanitation actual trash expenses. Stormwater utility fund, we have total inflows of $3,800 and outflows of $71,000, which leaves us a net loss of $8,000. That is due to the fact that in the month of September, obviously, we are collecting very little in stormwater fees. The majority of that is some delinquent fees that are still being collected, and that money will start rolling in as we start collecting the property tax, and those fees are paid on there. But we do have a cash balance in that fund of $147,000. There were no animal control or traffic control expenses. No recreation expenses paid to the county. I guess that will go away pretty quickly. We have recreation expenses, but those are the ones that we as the city are going to start the recreation center back up and get it running. Last page is the Roosevelt Lawrence Center, and you'll see we have total expenditures of approximately $17,000, and approximately $16,000 that is for salaries and wages and employee benefits. And of July is a higher number for those because we have the I don't know if I want to call it, it's not daycare, but it's not after school. Summer camp, that's it. Yeah, the summer camp program during the month of July. So the salaries are a little higher because we have some temporary help. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to.
You also had some overtime there, Kathy, 1,252.
Yes, I think we normally do have some. They don't always get off at the exact times that they're expected to, but I will go back and double check that and make sure and see if I can see exactly what if that appears to be a problem. But
And we expect to get the tax bills out
They will be due November, you're correct, correct. They'll be due November 30th, but we will start seeing, once they go out, we'll have some early payers that are always trying to get it paid in quick. We'll have early payers and then people that wait until the last minute.
Any additional questions? Hearing none, we'll open it for a motion.
Motion to accept the financial statement as presented.
Second.
Hearing the first and the second, all in favor, show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you, Director. We'll now move on to consider approval of contract amendment with DRP for the design and permitting services for Glen Avenue Link Trail along US Highway 17 from Overlook Park to the Torres Causeway. Albertson.
Good afternoon, good evening. This is, like I mentioned, an item for a contract amendment for the Glen Avenue Link Trail. This project is probably more known as the Boardwalk Trail. Proposed location along the east side of Highway 17 from Overlook Park to the St. Simon's Causeway. The project began back in 2021. We went out and applied for and received a TAP grant, Transportation Alternatives Program, TAP funding from GDOT, the amount of $500,000. That program is set up so that it pays 80% of the project cost, and the city or local government is responsible for the other 20%. With that in hand, we went out and entered an agreement with DRMP, a consult engineering firm, for the design of this trail. And the project, because of the TAP funding, has to follow along with the GDOT's plan process guidelines, which is a process that they use, very detailed process for design of roads and bridges. They hit all the details during the design. So that is basically a four-part design process. Phase one is the conceptual design phase, includes environmental assessment, survey, some geotechnical work, and in the concept report, which we got through that phase and have recently gotten approval of the concept report. Next phase is phase two, is preliminary plans, development of preliminary plans and right-of-way plans. Phase three is the completion of the final plans, and then phase four is the construction administration. When we entered the original agreement with DRMP, we also went out at that point and applied for and received additional TAP funding. That brought us to a total current funding of $1.2 million. Of that, the city is responsible for 25% of that, $242,000. Now, as I mentioned, we have completed phase one, and we have run up on some design changes, which is to be expected. You always get design just coming out of the concept report. One of the biggest changes here is an alignment change to move the proposed alignment to the east of the Georgia Power poles, large transmission poles which are located there. Georgia Power does not want a trail between the roadway and the poles in case they need to access the poles in storm emergency. Moving to the east of those poles added a little bit of length to the trail, required some additional environmental investigation. And then we also have the coordination with the environmental agencies, the Georgia DNR, the Coastal Resources, and the CMPA committee that we'll have to go through. With those additional design considerations in mind, DRMP has revised a proposal for a contract amendment to incorporate these design changes. The total of the design agreement now is $2.056 million. That is increase of approximately $846,000 over our design agreement. As I said, the total design agreement is just over $2 million. I've got a So kind of working through this, as I mentioned, there are four phases to the project, listed there. Those in this updated contract amendment, those four phases, it'll just over $2 million, which will be the cost of design of the project. Our funding sources that we currently have, I mean, the initial $500,000 and then the secondary TAP grant we currently have $1.2 million worth of funding in hand. Of that, GDOT's paying $968,000. We're responsible for $242,000 of that. So far that of the 242 we've paid from SPLOST 6. When that money runs out, we'll move over and pay from SPLOST 22, have boardwalks and trails money allocated. If we decide to go forward with this, we would need an additional $846,000 of funding. I think our primary source would be to go back to GDOT and apply for additional TAP funding. That would, on the 80-20 guidelines, that would be another $670,000 from GDOT and another $169,000 we would be responsible for. That also come from the boardwalks and trails in SPLOST 22. At this point in the project, we are exactly 30% into the $1.2 million of current funding that we have. In other words, we have spent out of our pocket 30% of that $242,000, is what, $72,000 roughly, has come out of our pockets this project to date.
Say that again, please.
At this point, we have spent about 30% of the current funding we have. The $1.2 million of total funding that we currently have, we spent 30% of that, which of that we're obligated for $242,000. So 30% of that $242,000 is roughly $73,000 that we've spent towards this project out of our pocket.
City of Brunswick.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So like I said, if we go forward, we would need for additional funding. Obviously that would increase our obligation to that, but, so that is the project here. That's where we are with this. So bringing it to you to decide if we want to move forward with the project at this point.
Can I just want to ask a base setup question. Because in my regular eye, God bless Georgia Power, but I don't know how much they even disturb marsh by putting that large of a thing in the marsh and then disturb the marsh further into the marsh seems disruptive to the marsh, but also seems like it could open itself up to being destroyed by disaster a lot easier than a trail being just a pathway or something of that nature. So because of that, I understand what the game plan looks like if we were decide to continue down this process. If the decision was made to, hey, this seems to be moving in a direction that we wouldn't be in favor of, what does then I don't want to say pulling the plug, but reimagining this process like? Does do we send the money back to GDOT, start all over with a different kind of plan? Help me understand that.
I think we go back to G and say, look, okay, this project has gotten a little bit out of hand, more than we will take. We want to look at different alignments. I don't know exactly if we could look at alignments with this money that we have. We would return the money that we've fed and go after other money if we want to go on a different alignment or a different trail path. So I will find out the answer to that. and
That's
let you
it.
know.
I do want to, because I want to encapsulate in my brain, we send the money back to GDOT, what the process looks like, and go ahead.
Yeah, I think as we were talking before the meeting that I think giving consideration to using the center median as the area for the prospective trail and just seeing if that would fall under the same criteria for the funding and what that might look like in order, we've got some nice shade trees. You've got the linear oak right there. To the degree that a path could work its way through that median, which is nice and wide, it would give a priority to those cyclists and those people walking and get them safely in the direction that they're going without going to the west side of the street, which has a lot of ingress and egress and a lot of business, and it's not very conducive to a trail. But the cost of this, and I think I would agree totally with the disturbance. I just think spending that much money on the scheme of things, a short piece of trail is just I would not want us to do that. But if we could explore that center median and then figuring a way to cross back over that northbound lane of 17, that would be great to reconnect with the foot of the causeway and then continue north.
Additional questions, comments?
I'm just thinking, cause all I can see is dollar. My mind won't even go past all these thoughts, cause all I can see is extensive costs. And so I definitely,
What would be involved? Would that be a combination with GDOT as far as,
Yes, ma'am.
okay.
Yep, which we call this week, tomorrow, and start that conversation and find out, how the assess would work, if we could transfer it or kind of shift our focus from the money that we have, or if it involves us completely returning, starting over.
And another piece that I don't know if maybe we could explore, does it provide for us to build out in different areas around the city? You know what I mean? And those same dollars, link us up in different places. And I'm not sure the full stipulations of the dollars. But yeah, as soon as Georgia Power started putting those polls, I figured we were not moving in that direction. And so I would assume that if we were to make a decision to say no to going this route, we could have a stipulation inside of our motion that allows you all to further have a conversation with GDOT about how we can reconstitute these dollars.
and that's about reimagine. I think as Martin has said, reimagining how we would want that to look, and more buy-in from the city and how we would want that to look with the in from that community as well. Because I know that they've had some concern about this the entirety of this process. And so now, to me, this allows additional discussions to reimagine that looks to benefit both that area in its entirety. I remember the conversation that Commissioner Rowe has even addressed about reimagining how that plaza area looks, and the benefit, the greatest benefit for that area entirety, that community in its entirety, while also, taking in the factor of what the trail is gonna mean in dollars, for tourism and, but encompassing all of that stuff in a conversation and being more broad in our imagining that area.
So as what's before us is approving or not approving of the contract amendment, it sounds like maybe we want to move forward with exploration of other alternative pathways. I don't want to
Right.
close
I-
the door,
yeah.
want to
Yeah,
close.
I would-
it, but-
I would assume the motion would be to decline the opt for us with the stipulation that continued work be done by the staff.
I think exactly right. You would decline this tonight and then we have conversations with the GDOT and the consultant. And then, you know, if it comes out of that conversation, then we bring back a revised contract amendment, you know, to work on a different alignment or whatever.
Okay.
But this one would be denied tonight. And
Yes, sir.
we'd move forward.
And we don't have any more questions?
Yeah,
Okay.
this Sierra Linda, proposal here from PR, it has additional services not part of contract. Number 5 in there is a retaining wall designed over 4 feet. And everybody hear me out there, I've been accused so many times of not being heard, and if you'll just raise your hand, I'll talk louder, I'll yell. But where was the retaining wall? I know that I said we didn't need a trail over there if it didn't serve as a retaining wall. And then I picked this up in here, that is not part of the condition.
Right.
But it says over 4 feet. I'll take a retaining wall, anything out there, we'll get by for a couple of years.
I'm not sure why they put the over 4 feet in there, because there's no retaining walls.
I asked for it, I get it, but it makes sense to me if you're gonna spend any kind of money out there, that you want some security from tidal flow. And if you can't get that, you can't achieve that, guess what? You need it. And that's a fact. And that is part of the additional sources. And then there's another thing in here about, buying the right of way. How many property owners do we have there? Is it just that one?
I want to say there are 2 properties that would be involved that are not city properties. There is a city property there, and then I believe there are 2 owned properties that we would need to negotiate with.
I was aware of one, but I'm not aware of any more.
I believe there's 2, but I could say off the top of my head the names
Hopkins
of
is
those.
the one that surfaced in the beginning. The lady from Atlanta that they
Right.
owned all of the property across the street, well, near Plaza,
Right.
where their family had a hotel.
Okay.
The first one. Who's the second?
I
Is it the
don't
Plaza?
recall off the top of my head. I can find out and let you know.
If I go along with this is a lot of money and real. And it was a red tag, with Georgia Power out there doing what they're doing and didn't, I don't see an oak tree out there replanted either. So they'll give us some money to help us with the project, you know? Maybe they'll throw in. They've got all kinds of community money. Let's go get some, Garrow.
Gara, under task 8, lighting design, can you tell what additional special design for the handrail and the RGBW color changing LED? What is all about?
we have to have lighting out there,
Yeah.
of course, so, you know, the standard is just, pole lighting. The handrail would be a lighted handrail, there, white lighted handrail. But the RBGY is an LED colored lighting that would probably be on the outside.
Like
Uh,
turtle friendly or,
Aesthetic, yeah,
okay, not bright white.
right,
Okay.
colored
It
lighting.
just kind of gives your city a skyline. It's kind of
Kind of
like,
Ambient.
yeah, when
Right,
like a
the
bridge
bridges
can
in
change
Jacksonville,
colors or the
kinda.
top of a
Right.
skyscraper change colors, like.
Exactly.
Carol, could you get us something on item number 5 about the retaining? All right, I'm very interested.
About, so what would you like on that?
What kind of retaining wall are we talking about?
Well, if we're not gonna go this
They're
route,
not-
it probably doesn't.
Not including a retaining wall, there's no
They
retaining
say
wall.
above 4 feet is what they say.
Yeah, I'm not sure why they
That's what I want to know. Why
detailed
is
it to 4
why
feet, but
is
there's
it-
retaining wall of any feet involved in it. So, I mean, I don't, I don't have anything I can
I'm
get you on
telling
that.
you, I caught a spark there when I saw that. Pretty adamant about you don't need to spend any money out there, and I still believe. it. I really- Unless you can protect.
I think that opens us up for a motion. There.
I'll make a motion that we not approve the, let's see where we are, the contract amendment with DRMP for the design permitting services for the Glen Avenue Link Trail along US Highway 17 from Look Park to Torres Causeway, but that we explore alternative routes within that same logistic area and get information on the TAP grant compatibility.
Hearing the first, do I have a second? Hearing the first and the second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, is hearing none, the motion passes. We'll now move on to number 8, Director Albertson, consider approval authorizing mayor to sign an agreement with GWES Engineering in the amount of $249,400 for engineering and design services for the Bay Newcastle Roundabout project.
Okay. Y'all are familiar with that side of town and where Bay Street intersects Newcastle right there in front of the Pate Building. In 2022, I believe, we completed a study through that group of the Bay Street corridor, and that was a study of that corridor of Highway 341 all the way from Highway 17 along 4th Avenue, Bay Street, up Newcastle Street, all the way out to I-95, studied the entire corridor, and some of the specific intersection points on that corridor. One of those areas that was studied, one of those intersection points was that intersection of Bay and Newcastle Street. And the recommendation that came out of that study was a roundabout as an intersection there at that study, at that location, I mean. As you know, that's a skewed intersection. Bay Street does not enter at an angle, and can cause some difficulty as vehicles from Bay turning left onto Newcastle. Also, Newcastle Street is not stop controlled through that intersection, which allows vehicles to come southbound at pretty high speeds, some trucks onto Bay Street, but also other vehicles come into the city, and they can be traveling pretty fast by the time the G Street area and get into the parking area, move to the downtown area. So, a roundabout in that area, intersection improvements would serve to not only make a more manageable intersection, more easily negotiated, but also serve as stop control there at that intersection, some vehicles as they come into the downtown area. And just sort of provide a gateway to the city right there coming in so that you're not coming in with some straight shot. Kind of have a gateway to the city there with landscaping, possible signage as you enter the city. And you get to overcourt block development right there that's gonna happen on the corner there, just beyond it. So, decided to move forward, looking at the potential of this project, move forward with the design of it. We have had some conversations with so far GDOT is on board with it. It's gonna have to go through their design process, not the full plan development process that we talked about in the trail. They have an encroachment manual, which, includes a large project section. It includes some excerpts and some featured out of their plan development process. So this would be a pretty lengthy development process. They will be very involved in the review of the design. Probably looking at 18 or even closer to 24-month design process to get all the GDOT steps. But, we went out and we asked for pricing on this from our pre-qualified consultants. We got that pricing back. It's listed there in the packet. And Georgia Water and Environmental Services was the low price of them, and they, for that price, will be able to meet all guidelines and all the requirements outlined in the GDOT encroach policy and their design process throughout this. Like the GDOT will be extensively involved throughout this process during the review and plan design for this. And GWES is ready to begin as soon as we give them approval. So, and then this project would be funded through our new SPOS collections for the SPOS 22 roadway section. So, this item is asking approval to move forward with a contract with Georgia Water and Environmental Services, $249,400 for the design of the roundabout in Newcastle.
Questions?
Yeah, I am really in favor of doing this, and I'm just wondering if there's any way, Garrow, that we could, ask that, there be lighting there is supplied by God and not Georgia Power.
Yes, sir. We have part of the design is for lighting design as well as, escape design. So, we did include both of those in the request. So it is part of their design package.
Solar lighting?
We would look at the best option. We'll certainly look at solar and see where our best.
I sure hope we'll specify it and light. We had to put a windmill up there.
Do that.
Don't do that.
Are you
please.
talking about alternative lighting?
And
Making sure everybody.
I think we did come to the realization through the initial process that we went through, I think with Palms, right, that
Believe.
there's really no additional right of way or land, or we can stay within the front.
That's right. The study indicates that it can be completed within the right. One of the first things that we will do here is confirm that. Some preliminary survey and a layout to confirm that it will fit in the right of way that's there. No acquisition will be necessary. And then a cost estimate to go along with that, to a preliminary construction cost estimate to just kind of go ahead and give us an idea of where we're at as we get into construction. But you're right, we're not expecting right of way acquisition necessary.
Yeah. And I would like to see, at least what the design concept or landscape plan might be for that whole roundabout. I mean, I would hope the other commissioners would want to kind of see what that's going to look like and have any input if it's
We'll sure
possible.
pass it along, as soon as we get some conceptual drawings and design renderings, we can share that for sure. And we've also had some conversation with the URA and their consultants, and, we want to tie this into their design as they're working on the
Yes.
overcourt block right
Yeah.
there. So we want to make all of that work together.
Okay.
Absolutely. You know, this picture that, you give us here, it's like the process is real close to the parking for Harold Page. What,
Do you lose some, you asking,
Yeah.
you lose
I
some
mean,
spaces?
I
You
mean,
got
it's
roadway right next to it.
really close.
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty close to the existing curb line right there.
Do you expect to lose parking based upon the roundabout?
Yes, ma'am, they would. You would lose that on-street parking right there.
Have they seen this rendition?
The county was involved in the study. Yes, sir.
So how would we make up the loss of parking? We got that's a reality we are dealing with downtown.
You know, we could possibly look at it as they're developing the parking for this new court building that they're working on, which is gonna be located just north of the building. You know, it's gonna have parking associated with it, so maybe we, with them about transitioning some of this parking, you know, covering for it in there.
How about on the immediate area that abuts 341, the grass area where park their employee vehicles and stuff like that? How can we bring that into this?
That's the area that they're looking at for development of a new municipal building there, court building.
So they'll have to have parking. Yeah, they'll
That-
have to
There will
have
be parking
That's-
associated with that building.
That's where
so.
it would be.
That's a lot of land there.
How
Probably
much?
room.
How many parking spaces? Anticipate.
They will need a lot of
We
parking
covered
for
that.
that building. Yes, ma'am, I feel like we can't.
Any additional questions?
I'll make a motion that we approve for the mayor to sign the agreement with GWES Engineering in the amount of $249,400 for the engineering design services for Bay Newcastle Round project.
Second.
Hearing a first and a second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
As opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. We'll now move on to number 9, consider a agreement with EMC Engineering Services for survey and design tasks to resurfacing of Altama Avenue between First Street and Glen Al's Drive.
Okay, of course, you are all familiar with Altama Avenue. It's the largest roadway, city-owned, maintained roadway we have in town here. It's the main north-south corridor through town, about 20,000 vehicles a day on parts of it, and it's getting in pretty rough shape.
Yeah.
Um,
Long time coming.
when we started talking about this new stuff, that was one of the top priority projects that we identified that we wanted to take on. So, here we are. Want to start out with that this project, the scope of this project would include milling and resurfacing from Parkwood, First Street, going north all through the city limits there at Glen Isles. There is a segment there from 4th Street to College that's in the county, which they resurfaced a couple of years ago, which we would hop over that. That would not be included in this resurfacing. But it also, will also include, pavement design. There's rutting, significant rutting at the traffic signals especially. We would have a stiffer pavement design, possibly even concrete paving, stop pads there to try to prevent that rutting in the tire paths. Project will also include signal design. All those signals along there, First, 4th, Hare Lane, and Glen Isles need significant work. Controller cabinets, the software inside those cabinets, signal heads themselves, all are in need of replacement. We want to include that in this project, and also pedestrian crossing, as we had a pedestrian evaluation done back in the spring. I need to kind of bring that to you and share that with you, share the results of that with. But we it was done on several of our major streets, Altama being one of those. So, we're gonna take those streets that were identified or those improvements that were identified in that study, pull them into this project as well and include, pedestrian lighting, AD ramps, the crosswalk signage and pavement markings and all of that included in this as well. So, we handled this through sort of the same process as we did roundabout, put it out for request for pricing from our pre-qualified engineers. You can see the results there on the second page. EMC Engineering came back as the low price here at $97,500. They're ready to begin work as quick as we give them notice of approval, and then, we're asking them to kind of push this along. We'd like to get this out to construction bid as early in 2024 as we can to try to go ahead and get this under construction.
Is there a possibility anywhere to look for a roundabout here, this process?
We could, I guess. I mean, we can look anywhere for a roundabout, but, we had not included any in here. We're just going back with the traffic signals as they exist.
I'll tell you what, you've got a traffic problem on Alabama, and while you're doing this, you might take a look at it. You might slow folks down, you know? A roundabout serves a lot of purpose, and I think most people don't need an education or out there about roundabouts. They work, they really do. They put the onus back on the driver. There's no question that Alabama Avenue's got some serious concerns with speed. I would suggest doing it.
I have a question. Was there any, oh, sure, sorry.
I asked, is there any more feed stuff here about looking around?
I wouldn't think a round would go in right now on Altama. I would say we're in the middle, probably a full resurfacing of kind of the broader streets that we have. And I'm by no means a professional roundabout person that would be able to tell you when those would be good or bad. But I do think it takes a ton of education in the community and to throw a roundabout in a highly congested area before we introduce it into an area where people may understand it more, may be better for the city. That's me.
All you gotta do is ride over St. Simon and take a look. They work, they really do. You don't spend money out there, it's probably a good thing. If you don't do it now, to at least start a plan to advise some areas out there while EMC is doing this. I don't know what it would cost to take care of.
I think we could do that as we're looking at the signal design and that kind of thing, kind of preliminarily look at it and maybe start to plan for
I don't see where
future
it would
projects.
hurt at all. Has EMC moved out? They still.
They are still in the city as far as I know, but I haven't gone by their office in a week or two.
The only thing I would say roundabout, and you, like Johnny said, you can always look at something. But I think you have to consider the flow of traffic and the drivers. Cause teenage kids, they don't care about a roundabout. They gonna fly, whoever get to the sign first, and they ain't really looking at who got there first. They gonna try to beat each other coming through that roundabout. So that would be my biggest concern about that, because of the actual persons that are coming there. I mean, we already know speed bumps don't slow them down. Yield signs don't slow them down. A traffic light causes them to slow down. But around I mean, I'm a responsible driver. So I ain't gonna tell this is when I go through the roundabout, but I'm a responsible driver, more sensible than a teenager is. But I know I see them speeding through, areas that have the graded systems and the speed bumps and all that kind of stuff. And I can see them when they come out of, Brunswick High. And I can when they're coming off of Terra Lane, and I can see them, racing. The students gonna get their first, so that would be my concern. with the light.
I understand, I agree, you need education.
Yeah.
Question, but they do work in.
Yeah, they, I think, I don't know if they're
They-
gonna work there though.
Oh, they will, they put the onus back on the drive. That's where it should be, and it'll take some pressure off of the folks out there throwing. That's,
Was any further consideration given to all of the work that was done, public input, Carl Vinson Institute study that was done, the Altama corridor transformation, the streetscaping down that portion of Altama? Do y'all remember this?
Yeah, the safe streets.
We went
study, all
through-
that
yeah.
stuff done.
And at what point, maybe this is the right time for that yet. Maybe we need still a higher enrollment at the college, let's just say, but that is an infrastructure consideration for our city that also embodies beautification and walkability, especially for students and people crossing over Altama. So I didn't know if any consideration, has anybody dusted that off Lee and looked at it, or?
We have not really, not looked at it kind of into this project. This project was kind of going back with what we had, just
Okay.
kind of bringing what we have back up to newer conditions, working strictly within existing curb lines out there. The improvements pedestrian wise just being to get through the intersections better.
Yeah, which I think is great, but I don't want to see us totally walk away from that body of work that's done, because I think it's, when the timing's right, it offers something really worth looking at that could be an improved amenity to our area
know,
there.
Not to get too far in the weeds, we do have the Alabama bike corridor path, which is we've started design process on that, but then kind of starting to look at some funding opportunities, but that may be a good spot to the streetscaping aspect of it that you mentioned there.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll require some SPOS funding, so,
For sure.
we'd have to put that on and give that really, I think, a heavier weight of consideration down the road.
Mhm.
So
Thank
Gary,
you.
question, and, at the light, that comes off of Terra Lane. Crosses, okay. Is that some sewer pumps in there? Cause I'm asking because the way it sinks. I mean, it's enjoyable for some of the children because they're on a roller coaster and they flying across that.
There may be some underlying utility issues there.
Cause it starts on the south side of that light. And then it goes all the way up, almost a big lot, the first turn in at Big Lots.
Mhm.
And it's bad.
Part of it is just pavement running, when a vehicle stops, there's a lot of force on that pavement. But there may be some underlying issues. As we begin this project, like we try to do on all our, we'll get with Joint Water and Sewer and let them know what's going on and kind of say, hey, we're about to do this. If y'all have issues in this area, let's go ahead and look at taking care of those so that they don't have to open it back up, right after we finish. So,
And so-
if
and
there
I-
are
and I-
issues there, hopefully we can get them resolved.
I asked because I wonder if, like, the pothole that's on Terra Lane in front of the unemployment office, is that a continuation of something needs immediate attention? Because now, is that where a sewer, because I know it's a ditch that is just on the other side of that pot. So is that a continuation of an existing problem that could be worsened, stemming from the Altama area? And is it something to do with the sewer system that's running from that point over to the point in front of the employment center. I mean, unemployment.
It could be a sewer issue. I don't know enough right all about how the sewer lines run in that area I haven't looked into that yet, but we'll certainly get them as we start into this and
Right.
try to make sure all of that's taken care of.
Okay,
Cause we
yeah,
sure don't have to go back into this after we do it, so.
Yeah, I want that road to be sinking and
Right.
I think about holding it,
Wasn't researching. He was
doing all the stuff. Yeah, that's crazy.
I
Yeah.
don't, when I saw that, thing,
Oh,
I said,
that's
I
great.
didn't believe that we neglected. And talking about not in the education process around it, I think a perfect place there and highly disagree with me. Like they're doing away with it. It would save those people stress and egress at Magnolia Park so much. It really would. You wouldn't have to sit in there. And if that's not something that this committee would do, Garrett, is you could do the timing, get EMC, look up and down their neighborhood and change those lights, so they're not sitting there in the, wee hours in the morning. And that's, if it's not, hasn't been done.
Yeah, that will certainly be part of the signal design will be
Yeah.
synchronizing the timing all the way up Alma to mesh with the community road and the spur and the other GDOT light there, so.
We'll open it for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the agreement with EMC Engineering Services in the amount of $97,500 for engineering and design services of the Alma Avenue resurfacing.
Second.
Hearing the first and the second, all those in favor, sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you, Director Albertson.
go.
Kept you up here for a while, man. We'll move on to Director Hunter. Consider adoption of ordinance 1081 amendment to zoning ordinances, heard it 1,000 times. So I think this is the vote.
This is it.
This is it.
This is it.
All right.
We
You
could
want-
go line by line through the amendment if. you
Yeah, I
wish-
said we
if
could
you-
do that if we want.
I'll
left
make
my
a
sleeping
motion.
bag
It's only
at home.
272.
I didn't know it.
Motion here
Okay.
to approve this ordinance, 1081.
I second it.
Hearing the first and the second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
All those the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you, Director Hunter.
Yeah,
Thank
that was
you.
huge.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
That's your magnum opus.
I know we've moved number 11 to executive session items. Really, I do want to recognize Gwen Atkinson Williams. I want to recognize her because her, along with Roosevelt, are two of our stellar community leaders who came up and showed up at the indigent care shelter during the storm, braved the storm, came out there and served with us. So I just want to tell you, thank you for your leadership. Thank you for being here. And thank you to you and Ms. Roosevelt Harris. And with that, we'll open it up to an adjournment executive session.
For the purposes of litigation and personnel.
So moved.
First, do I hear a second?
Second.
Hearing first and second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
None, this motion passes.